পুরো করুন।
Today's digital day.
Yeah, it seems
Expanding.
no, this is
So,
it's a digital day, yes.
So it's a real privilege to talk here. I sincerely thank EPTAC and especially my supervisor, Professor Amitabh Lahiri, for giving me the opportunity to present here. So I shall be talking about thermodynamics and particle creation, some aspects for de-Sitter black holes. So here I shall take the opportunity to present a work, a calculation I have been doing, and I will discuss that. So let us take a quick overview. So first let me tell you that the references I mentioned here will be far less than complete, but I can give you the complete list of references and discuss if it is necessary. So what are de-Sitter black holes? The de-Sitter black holes are black hole solutions of Einstein's equations with a positive cosmological constant lambda given by this, where TAB is any energy momentum tensor. Let us start with some specific example. So let us consider spherically symmetric and static vacuum solution. That is, we put TAB equal to 0 on the right hand side, and take this answer for the metric. D omega 2 is the element on 2 sphere. We know that for lambda equal to 0, you have this Schwarzschild solution, and for m equal to 0, when there is no mass, we can have this de-Sitter solution. If we combine both, we get a remarkably simple solution called the Schwarzschild de-Sitter solution, where this metric function f of r given by this. This Schwarzschild de-Sitter solution describes a static mass, or it could be a black hole, or it could be a star, time-independent star, exterior of a star, for example, sitting in the de-Sitter universe, and it can be further generalized with charge, called the Reissner-Nordström de-Sitter solution, and we can put even rotation to that, known as the Kerr-Newman de-Sitter solution. And the entire family, entire set, starting from the Schwarzschild de-Sitter up to the Kerr-Newman de-Sitter, is known as the Kerr-Newman de-Sitter family. This can even be further generalized by putting some additional parameters known as the Plebanski-Damiansky class of solutions. So, okay, but we shall be interested in mostly in Schwarzschild de-Sitter and the Kerr de-Sitter in this work. So, let us recall the horizons of Schwarzschild, that is at twice mg, it is the black hole event horizon, and the de-Sitter horizon of empty de-Sitter space, it is at root over 3 by lambda. It is de-Sitter or the cosmological event horizon. So physically, we can say that since the de-Sitter space is expanding with acceleration, not all part of the space can be causally connected to each other, and some part of this space will be causally disconnected from a local observer. In that case, the observer is bound to see some finite part of the space, and this part can be covered with some static coordinate system. It is the quarter of the de-Sitter space. The coordinate patch I mentioned, it is only the quarter, covers only the quarter of the de-Sitter space, not the global de-Sitter space. And so this is it. This is the cosmological event horizon. So now, if we take the Schwarzschild de-Sitter solution, it admits 2 Killing horizons. Usually we expect there will be 2 Killing horizons when you combine both mass and positive lambda. And under this condition, 3mg root lambda is less than unity, we have indeed 2 Killing horizons, or 2 positive roots of metric function gtt equals 0. One is the smaller one, the argument of cosine is larger here. So is the black hole event horizon, we shall denote it by RH, and the larger one, RC, which is greater than RH and it should surround RH, is the cosmological event horizon. So if we let lambda equal to 0, we can recover the usual expression for the Schwarzschild radius. Now the cosmological event horizon can be thought of it is a complementary it is complementary to the black hole event horizon. The black hole event horizon arises due to high acceleration or gravitational collapse. When some object collapses due to strong gravity, there is some time at some later stage when the region becomes causally disconnected of a compact region, which is known as the black hole region, and the boundary of that region is the black hole event horizon. Similarly, if there is repulsive effect like that of positive cosmological constant, there will be rapid expansions, and eventually there will be regions which becomes causally disconnected from us, and the de Sitter radius here will denote the boundary of that region. So it is similar in almost all aspects with black hole event horizon, the cosmological event horizon. Like we can compute the null geodesic congruences and the expansion, rotation, shear corresponding to that congruences, and they all vanish like that of black hole killing horizon. But there is a difference, there is a qualitative difference, that in pure de Sitter space, it is observer dependent. The cosmological event horizon is observer dependent. This is because de Sitter space is maximally symmetric. It has isometry SO41. And in a pure de Sitter space, all points are equivalent to each other. So we can carry one point to other without any loss of generality. But we are considering Schwarzschild de Sitter. We are putting a mass in the de Sitter space. So this isometry is broken, SO41. And in Schwarzschild de Sitter, the isometry is similar to that of Schwarzschild, which is R1 plus S2. There is time translation and the sphere, two sphere. There are three generators. And you must note that in general, when the mass is usually very large, then usually the de Sitter isometry will be broken everywhere inside the cosmological event horizon. No observer that I mentioned can communicate beyond the cosmological event horizon along a future directed path like the black hole event horizon. Now the negative or vanishing lambda spacetimes, they possess no cosmological event horizon. So this is an interesting qualitative difference in de Sitter space compared to lambda less than equal to 0 spaces. So one wishes to do physics while located in the region between the two horizons. What happens, how an observer describes the situation, describes the physics when he or she is located in the annular region, so to say, between these two horizons. So the cosmological event horizon creates particles and it has entropy, quarter of its area. AC is the area of the cosmological event horizon. It was proven long time ago. And in the Schwarzschild de Sitter spacetime also, or any de Sitter black hole spacetime, the black hole event horizon and the cosmological event horizon individually creates particles with independent temperatures given by their respective surface gravities. Kappa is the black hole's surface gravity, kappa c is the cosmological event horizon surface gravity, and such description is possible only when they are separated by thermally opaque membrane. Because if in a space-time we have two independent sources of particle creation, naturally we cannot have any unique description of temperature or thermal states, unlike the lambda less than equal to 0 spaces. So we will focus in this work on a dynamical description of black holes particle creation via collapse mechanism in de Sitter universe. To the best of my knowledge, this has not been done so far. One has always used eternal black holes in de Sitter space, eternal de Sitter space. I will use a collapse mechanism and will try to derive the particle spectra created by black hole on the cosmological event horizon. So there is a reason to do that. I wish to compute the finite energy momentum tensor in the sense of blue shift on the future cosmological event horizon. And this is my motivation to do this calculation, the chief motivation. And for this reason, I wish to do that. Actually, I will replace the black hole located in the de Sitter space by a collapsing black hole, which will form a black hole at late times.
So it's a star.
It could be a star which is undergoing collapse. So it is the so to say, I am extending the original calculation of Hawking, that is particle creation by black holes, where he used a collapsing black hole. And I will show, I hope I will convey that there are lots of differences in this space-time as far as eternal black hole and black hole collapsing via black hole formed via collapse of concentration. So let us have a very quick overview of the thermodynamics of de Sitter black holes. The de Sitter horizon has, as I have mentioned, has a entropy and individual temperature, quarter of area of its area and quarter 2 pi its surface gravity over 2 pi. The relevant smart formula, that is obtained by the variation of different quantities of the space-times, given by this, whereas this kappa h is the black hole horizon, h denotes the black hole event horizon, kappa h is black hole surface gravity, h is the black hole's area. And since these space-times have two event horizons, it is reasonable to expect that the total Wittgenstein-Hawking entropy of them would be h plus ac over 4 instead of being h over 4. So this has been a speculation, and people have tried to investigate this for case-to-case basis.
The kappa s delta h go to proportional to the mass, isn't it?
Yes,
Delta m.
that is true for asymptotically flat space-time.
Right. So here you mean to say it's
There's a lambda in there.
So lambda in there, but
Yeah.
that lambda, but the total thing is zero, you are saying, is it?
No, you can call delta m this one and take it there. The thing is that the formula delta m is kappa h delta h comes from the Komar integral.
Right.
There are two boundaries. One is at asymptotic infinity and one is at the event horizon.
Right.
Here we have to stop on the cosmological event horizon.
Cosmology. Okay, this is what you are depositing.
Yeah, that's the point. So, for example, Paul Davis and Tamara Davis made some studies on taking some test matter fields to prove this generalized, whether this obeys the generalized second law of thermodynamics, and it has been derived recently using the formalism developed by Padmanabhan and Vibhash, that the formalism uses the surface term, Gibbons-Hawking-Yost surface term method, and actually, since we have two boundaries here, the Gibbons-Hawking surface terms splits into two parts, one located at the black hole event horizon and one located at the cosmological event horizon. And then one considers diffeomorphism in the whole bulk. The bulk means here the region between the black hole and the cosmological event horizon. And the whole thing, the whole diffeomorphism generated in the bulk gets now our whole task becomes, the whole diffeomorphism which is generated in the bulk, now we have to consider it on the boundary. And we have to consider only those diffeomorphism which leaves the near horizon geometry invariant. So using this, one can derive actually that we have indeed this to be the entropy, and this result holds for Carl-Newman, most general spacetimes, or even more general Plebanski-Damiansky de Sitter families, which have more parameters more than mass, charge, or angular momentum.
That also includes the nut parameter?
Yes, Carnot, de Sitter,
Yes.
more general. For example, Podolsky has these generalizations. So this is it. So now my main focus. So I'll derive a particle creation by the de Sitter black hole via collapse. Let us consider the geometry first in a bit details, which will be necessary. So for the Schwarzschild de Sitter metric, so the metric function is GTT is this one, and it has, if we set this to be 0, we get two killing horizons. One is the black hole RH, one is the cosmological event horizon. There is another root RU which is negative, which does not concern us, it is unphysical. So recall what we did for Schwarzschild black hole. We used to remove the coordinate singularity at the black hole event horizon by using Kruskal chart. here we have two such zeros, so we need to remove two such zeros. But it turns out that it is never possible to remove two zeros, two singularities simultaneously. So we do require two crystal-like charts which removes the two zeros at the 2 Killing horizons. So this is the tortoise coordinate, and in terms of this tortoise coordinate, the TR star part of the metric looks like this. And look, so this function can be factorized in terms of r by rh minus 1, r by rc minus 1, and r by ru plus 1. Okay, because this 0 gives these three roots. Now, using this formula, we eliminate either r by rh minus 1, which is 1, 0, or r by rc minus 1, and we do not bother about this because this is negative r. Okay, so this is the main idea, and using this, we will remove two singularities of the two event horizon. So we cannot do it simultaneously or globally, unlike Schwarzschild. So, and from this expression, since kappa h and kappa c are positive, so it is obvious that r star is minus infinity on the black hole event horizon and plus infinity on the cosmological event horizon. So the cosmological event horizon in this new coordinate, tortoise coordinate, is as if at infinity, especially.
How do you define kappa u?
So okay, so it is defined like, okay, kappa u is del r 1 minus 2 mg over r minus lambda r square over 3 at r equal to minus rh plus rc.
Let's see.
So it doesn't concern us actually. It relates some surface gravity of some unphysical horizon located at negative r.
So that's right. But why do we include that in there?
So that comes, I didn't include. Actually, the tortoise
Okay,
integral.
so it comes as a part of the.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I do
Right.
partial fraction integration.
Right,
Exactly.
Right.
So this is it. So this is the main philosophy of removing singularities from the space. Now we define the Kruskal null coordinates. So this u and v are the standard retarded and advanced null coordinates. And now we are defining Kruskal null coordinates, UH and VH, which removes the singularity on the black hole event horizon, and UC and VC, which removes the singularity on the cosmological event horizon. But I emphasize that they do not act simultaneously. We have to choose either this one or this one. Now, it is easy to show that if we now construct coordinate vector fields from this using these coordinates and compute the geodesic equation, and it is easy to show that the coordinate vector fields along these coordinates, that all of them UH, VH, UC and VC, they all are geodesics. So it means that all of UH, VH, UC and VC are affine parameters along null geodesics on the horizons, event horizons. UH and VH are affine parameters on the black hole event horizon, and UC and VC are affine parameters on the cosmological event horizon. So now let us consider a radial null geodesic now with affine parameter lambda, with a global affine parameter lambda everywhere between the cosmological event horizon and the black hole. We formally denote it by lambda. For an incoming geodesic, we have, it is easy to show, it's simple algebra, show that P is constant, and for outgoing, Q is constant. Using this, and the fact that this we have this limit for the tortoise coordinate, then we can have these limits, U reaches plus minus infinity as R goes RH and RC, and V is minus plus infinity as R goes RH, RC. Note that the role of RC is just a spatial infinity, nothing else like this. So this gives the following limits. We can compute this on the Kruskal null coordinates like this. So using this, I shall now draw a diagram. So this will be required. I shall be interested, as I have emphasized from the beginning, in the region between the two event horizons, that is RH, the black hole, that is RC, the cosmological event horizon, and this one, and the plus minus infinities in U and V shows that this space-time is eternal, both event horizons. So this is H minus, the past segment of the black hole event horizon. This is H plus, the future segment. This is C minus, the past segment of the cosmological event horizon. And this is the future cosmological event horizon. So it shows an eternal black hole. So we can analytically continue these regions. So there is a singularity, there is de Sitter space. So let us do not bother about them now. So we are now describing so far an eternal black hole with a white hole, future black hole, a past cosmological event horizon, which should be thought as the complementary part of the white hole horizon, and the future cosmological event horizon. And we can easily argue from this thing that things only can be ingoing from the past cosmological event horizon, in asymptotic paths. And things go out of the cosmological event or future cosmological event horizon. This will be very important. So now, so this completes the description of the region between the two horizons. Both are eternal, have past and future components. Now let us come to the particle creation issues. We take a massless field, psi, we use the usual variable separation. We get this Schrodinger equation effectively. Omega is the energy eigenvalue. And solutions. It is clear from this that the way we define U and V, that the retarded and advanced null coordinates, the phases of these solutions will be formed like this with some radial distortions. We assume that the field propagates under null geodesic approximations. This means the frequencies are high, effectively. And since it is a massless field, the phases will propagate along null geodesics. The normal to the phases will propagate along null geodesics.
You are assuming omega to be real.
Yes.
That will require certain boundary conditions.
Yes, but I think the normal mode conditions are satisfied here, because I am not considering modes which are ingoing at the future black hole event horizon. So perhaps I do not worry. I do not have to worry about the quasi-normal modes here. So
then in that case you should tell what is the boundary condition on the horizon.
I'll just
Okay.
So near the horizon, this potential term goes away. So this one is 0, and we trivially have plane waves. In terms of the respective Kruskal coordinates, these modes can further be rewritten as plane wave modes like this. I mean that on the cosmological event horizon or near the cosmological event horizon, this takes this form, the solution, only in terms of the Kruskal coordinates regular on the cosmological event horizon. Near the cosmological event horizon, you cannot use the Kruskal mode of the black hole. Okay, this will give divergence, and vice versa. Now, all existing calculations use standard Bogoliubov transformation between the Kruskal and the UV modes. To derive the spectra for any of the horizons, one picks up the Kruskal patch finite on it and makes the computation. Also, one could use different propagators in Unruh vacuum and Hartle-Hawking vacuum. I shall not go into that. Padmanabhan and Chaudhary has discussed this in details, and we have also involved on this. So, now clearly, these are only valid when the black hole and the de Sitter are eternal. So, this diagram is valid. When? Only when. So, now I put forward this question. What happens when the former is formed nuclear collapse? So, this is the key question. I will draw another diagram now.
Next time.
I need to replace this one, right? Only future will be present, future event horizon. There will be no past event horizon. And the diagram will be like this. This is the future event horizon. Modes are incoming, so the basic scheme is the following. Modes are incoming from the past cosmological event horizon, which we have assumed to be eternal. It seems to be a reasonable assumption as long as the lifetime of the collapse is much small compared to the de Sitter space. So it enters here, gets scattered because the black hole has not yet still fully formed, and reaches here. So we are not dealing with any mode on the future horizon, any mode incoming on the future horizon. The quasi-normal modes will be those which are ingoing on the future black hole event horizon. So now let us proceed. So the past black hole event horizon, as I have been explained, that will be absent in that case, and we assume that such collapse in an eternal de Sitter space. So this is analog to the original derivation of Hawking, and with boundary condition fixed upon the past and future. For us, the boundary conditions are fixed on past, future, and past cosmological event horizon. But Hawking did this calculation in asymptotically flat spacetime. So for his boundary conditions were at sky plus minus, that is the past and future nullity. So this is the description I have mentioned here. Modes will be incoming at the past cosmological event horizon, the quantum modes. At asymptotic past, it will propagate along null geodesics by our approximation, the null geodesic approximation, and it will enter the collapsing body. So the black hole has not yet formed, so there is no singularity here. So there is an infinite centrifugal barrier sitting at the center. So this mode will eventually get scattered at r equal to 0, and it will leave the collapsing body and propagate towards the future cosmological event horizon. There will be gray body effects, but I will not consider this. So we shall examine the scattering now. We take the positive frequency mode function incoming on the past cosmological event horizon to be this. Recall that Vc is the Kruskal null coordinate on the past cosmological event horizon. One might ask that what is the reason of choosing Kruskal coordinates to choose a mode? I could have used usual advanced coordinate V, but the reason is that, as I have said, that the Kruskal coordinates are tangent to the geodesic, the Kruskal observers are tangent to the geodesic generators of the horizon. So they are freely falling. So this justifies the reason that why we should choose Kruskal coordinates on the horizon with the natural observers. So, and the mode functions near the which are entering the collapsing body, we take to be e to the minus I omega V, where V is the usual advanced null coordinate. We imagine this mode leaves the collapsing object just before the black hole event horizon forms. For incoming modes, V is constant, and it can be shown using geodesic, just simple calculation using geodesic equation. That is, U is minus kappa h log of C lambda. Lambda is an affine parameter along the geodesic. C is a constant, just to make the argument of the logarithm dimensionless. I'm sorry, this will be kappa h inverse. So, near the horizon, we recall that U is plus infinity, so we must have lambda equal to 0. Lambda goes to 0. And after scattering, this mode, so we see that this is plus infinity. So when it leaves this collapsing object and propagates outwards, it will be infinitely Bluetian. And it will propagate to the past cosmological event horizon. So now the trick is to determine that what is the effect of the scattering. We take this mode on the past cosmological event horizon backwards along a past directed path. We take it back, re-enter the collapsing object, and trace it back up to the past cosmological event horizon. this is the idea. You go. So, and it will then compare it with the regular Kruskal mode there. You can compute the Bogoliubov transformations. So now the question is, what should be the form of the phase at past cosmological event horizon? We know it here. Now we wish to, and we know it propagates here. We wish to trace it back to here, and we wish to know how it would have looked at past infinity. So it is clear that firstly it should formally just the plane wave because of the null geodesic approximations. And so now the question is, what should be the phase at past horizon? Clearly, since the phase propagates in a null geodesic approximation, when it is traced back to the past cosmological event horizon, the affine parameter lambda will be like this, and this lambda will be just replaced by the Kruskal null coordinate, because the Kruskal null coordinate is itself an affine parameter on the past cosmological event horizon. So that's it. So we have now determined the mode functions on the past cosmological event horizon. This is the regular mode functions, which is the Kruskal null coordinate, and this is when we trace it back from the future cosmological event horizon through the collapsing body up to the past cosmological event horizon. The phase is determined, this affine parameter lambda is solely determined by P of C, which is itself a affine parameter, null geodesics, and it is local. So it is formally the same as in asymptotically flat spacetimes. So keeping in mind, we have replaced the psi minus by a past filling horizon. Now it is straightforward. So there is prescription for that. We define the in vacuum and out vacuum, and expand the field modes in terms of differentiation and annihilation operators, and we define Bogoliubov coefficients. So there is no need to go into details of this. So, and we have this Klein-Gordon inner product on the past horizon, and we use this to determine the inner product. We use the regular Kruskal patch, so there is no problem of infinities or anything. And the particle created by the out mode with respect to the in vacuum is given by this, where J is, I have written as discrete sum, but it is basically an integration over momentum. And it turns out, using this, the spectrum is Planckian with the usual black holes temperature. So let me summarize what I have got. So I have got Hawking particle flux, particle creation on the cosmological event horizon via a collapse mechanism. Now it is reasonable to ask why I have done it. So it is well understood. So the reason is the following. The reason is that all the calculations so far use, as I mentioned, eternal coordinates, and the eternal coordinates are used to calculate black hole temperature in such kind of spacetimes will always give divergent things on the cosmological event horizon, because the eternal coordinates related to black holes are never well defined on the cosmological event horizon. So my motivation was to do something, to find some way where I can have the flux of particles, or I can compute the expectation values of T mu on the cosmological event horizon, which are finite, which are not blue shift. So that I have been doing, but there is no reason that result will be different, because everything is formally the same as flat spacetime. And we are using here a coordinate chart which is bounded, which is finite. So the result straightforwardly generalizes to Carr de Sitter. Only we have to take about the local rotation on the two horizons. So it should be emphasized that I had made no assumption about the relative sizes of the horizons. For example, the horizons here could be comparable with each other. They could be Nariai or near Nariai black holes. RH could be comparable to RC. And actually, So it is, so far it is well known that such de Sitter black holes are nice toy models for actual black holes of our universe because of the confirmation of accelerated expansion. But most importantly, more importantly perhaps, they can model primordial black holes which are generated, which are nucleated from high energy false black holes at early universe where the cosmological constant has some high value and they can create pockets of expanding universe. So for them, this calculation will be perhaps more meaningful when the full thing is done, full computation of the quantum energy momentum tensor, to know how they evaporate, how quickly they evaporate. Now the question, an important future direction in this. So it will be interesting to get rid of the eternal de Sitter space as well, because in the most realistic scenario, this past cosmological event horizon will be some FRW, cosmological event horizon, and it could be some power law, something, and it would eventually evolve to de Sitter. So perhaps one way out to, and also to get rid of the static coordinate system to be more more relevant to cosmological coordinates would be to, but perhaps one way out would be to use the McVitie's construction. The McVitie's construction is basically the description of a Schwarzschild mass written in a FRW universe.
But there is some, of late in the literature there is some criticism about the method.
Yes, yes, because they say that if there is central mass, how rho could be inhomogeneous.
Yeah.
But well, perhaps a model.
Yeah, within that limit you can convert.
Yeah, so Kaloper has had this
Yes.
criticism recently.
No, but there in both ways. There, Kaloper did one thing, but then the people came back and defending the McVitie. So
Yeah.
the-
Homogeneities in cosmological spaces, we have no other reasonable way to do. So what I wish to do, I wish to use some mode functions, perhaps some adiabatic mode functions here, corresponding to some power law, which enters the horizon, moves into the collapsing body, gets scattered to some evolving de Sitter space, where we can use the Bunch-Davies pattern, for example. And this calculation will be exponentially difficult from this, what I have said. These are only near horizon calculations I needed to do. So, but it should be a very well motivated exercise to address in the future. So, thank you very much for your time.
So do I get this right? Or your overall picture?
I'm supposed to be the boss.
Of course you are.
But there are questions there.
Oh, sorry. I thought you told me that go ahead.
No.
So there are two questions.
Yeah, sure.
So the first is related to the fact that this seems very much like, as you mentioned also, like a Hawking
Yeah.
collapse calculation.
Of course.
So it's like a Hartle-Hawking vacuum, and the final state.
No, it is not a Hartle-Hawking vacuum. Hartle-Hawking vacuum is valid only for eternal Schwarzschild. It uses Kruskal coordinates.
So in the final case, actually, what is happening is that you are describing the state in the future cosmological event horizon.
Yeah, future and past.
Yeah, so because of this restriction, so my question is that whether there would be a modular Hamiltonian because of this restriction of the state in the in the t going to infinity limit, and or would there be some problem in defining that modular, constructing that modular Hamiltonian? And the second question is related to the global conservation of energy. So in Schwarzschild-like black hole, I mean, a collapse situation where it's asymptotically flat space-time,
Yeah.
because you have a stationary killing vector
Of course.
at infinity, so you will get a energy conservation. So the amount of mass being evaporated from the black hole, you will see that is what
Yeah.
you get as the radiation. So
Yeah.
what would be the corresponding case here? Because there seems to be no.
Yeah, global time-like killing vector field. So, shall I answer your second question first? With the killing vector field. So no, there is no global notion of energy in Schwarzschild de Sitter space. Okay, so that is problematic because once you cross the cosmological event horizon, you do not have it. Even in de Sitter space, if I understand correctly, if you use cosmological de Sitter space, that there is some trouble if you use cosmological de Sitter space to define a conserved energy because you do not have any time like killing vector. orthogonal to a family of spatial hypersurface. You need to go to the static patch, for example. So here, no, we do not have any set. As long as observers are located inside the de Sitter horizon, the conservation of energy was fine. Okay, first of all. And the second question regarding the Hamiltonian. So actually, I am not restricting the states to there, to the cosmological event horizon. It is everywhere, because otherwise it would not have gone through the collapsing body and went up to the past future horizon. Okay, the thing is that I am constructing suitable wave packets in the past and future regions where I can use calculate this inner product.
Can I make a very brief remark at that? The formulae look remarkably similar to what happens in the Rindler wedge, and there is a general theory I told you about called you use the word modular Hamiltonian, which is a part of this Tomita Takesaki activity, and these formulas seem to be coming out, provided there is a CPT operation. That is the important thing. Okay? That is a CPT operation, a reflection, anti-linear involution. Okay?
So how do you define CPT
In collapse, do you have T?
No, this is a in the
He's
way you
doing a
say,
collapse.
I don't know for this geometry. Okay?
There will be no T, right?
CPT, I don't want T or anything. I need a reflection which is anti-linear, which will take you to the causal complement. Okay? If that exists, apparently, I'm not sure. All these results, well, many of these results will follow.
Okay, may I say,
But
In collapse, there may not be a CPT.
may I say
there may not be, then I do not know.
Yeah, that's the problem.
may I make a comment? So the thing is that Rindler or those spaces, the spaces earlier I draw, those are eternal. So their time reversal is symmetric.
Yes.
But a collapse can never be time reversal
But
symmetric.
when I say collapse,
Yeah.
time reversal, they are not what I am using the language. The language is used. They are not geometrical operations. There is some anti-linear involution which will take you from here. You have a Hilbert space, so you don't do it. It will take you to the causal complement.
Okay.
So it is not, I think, used in this language.
No,
And
I-
modular Hamiltonian will not be a ghost or anything. It will not be a geometrical object.
Maybe I will understand this from the details.
There is some literature, but it is not. It is in the literature.
Take some reference.
Naresh wanted to ask.
Naresh wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get your overall picture. So what you are saying is, the collapsing thing which you have, this matter is created at the cosmological horizon. From there it is falling to form the black hole? Is that what you
It could be, but it is not necessary that all the matter generated from the past horizon and collapsing. The thing is that there should be some quantum modes on the past cosmological event horizon, which are entering the collapsing object.
Right.
Because the collapsing object entirely could not be quantum. It could be made of classical objects also. Right?
No, but I can create things at the cosmological horizon.
Yeah.
That could be a quantum thing.
Yes.
But
of
in
course.
the process, it could as well become classical, and that's what is collapsing.
Right. Could be.
So that could be a
Could be. Causally, there is no restriction on this. On the past horizon, we are-
That's right.
Also, the L equals 0 modes will collapse to form the black hole, while non-zero L modes are getting scattered to.
Not all non-zero. Thanks for raising this
No, you
point.
should say the
The
cutoff.
thing is that, okay,
That's
I will be very
another
quick.
question.
Then give another 5 minutes to
Yeah.
what is it? There is
So,
enough
I have
time.
no problem.
1:15 was the regular time, so 5 minutes.
I have no problem. It is up to you, boss.
Yeah.
So,
One remark I want to make may be helpful. He said for the standard digital space,
yeah,
I mean, this kind of space, even smaller thing, go on intersecting appropriate wedges and so on.
yeah.
The emergence of the thermostat has been proved by Longo.
Gibbons and Hawking.
Huh?
I mentioned the reference. Gibbons and Hawking.
No, Longo.
Longo.
It's not Longo. For standard digital space. Okay? Standard digital space, you take, there are wedge-like small, what they call causally complete regions.
Yeah, yeah.
They have
There are
proved
many
it.
demonstrations, I mean, yeah.
But here they have proved it.
Longo and Gibbons Hawking did path integral and also.
I don't know about Gibbons or I'm only familiar
Yeah,
with
sure.
Longo.
I'll take the reference. So the thing is that no, not all the L not equal to 0 mode will collapse. I mean, would escape. Yeah. The thing is that it is related to the gray body effect, which I did not mention because it would only be
Only
from
part of it.
technicalities only. So the thing is that suppose things are collapsing here. this is the object, and this is a scalar field, so it has some potential like this. It has maximum here. So some modes are here. When we are escaping, I think you cannot see that.
Yeah, I can see.
So some modes when escape, they might be reflected and get back into the collapsing mode. So not all non-zero modes will eventually escape. Even though they will be scattered, they will feel an infinite repulsive barrier at r equal to 0. This is the gray body.
Okay, so lunch is on the lawn and